PSN's Motoring 96 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas, the way it should be.
This week we're in the Motor City of Detroit, Michigan for a birthday party. And what better place to celebrate the 100th birthday of the North American automobile industry. Hello everybody and welcome to Motoring 96. And you know, it was back in 1896 that the Dure brothers built, advertised, and sold a production line of 13 identical vehicles, and the world has never been the same. This week we're going to hang out with some of the people here and their cars and learn more about this long, passionate love affair between North Americans and their automobiles.
This event is really terrific because it's a grassroots celebration. I think there's over 1,400 cars. Almost every model is represented, almost every year is represented. And what we did is we had people enter their cars. We had a national, we sent out a mailing to all the car clubs across the country. They mailed in their responses, and then the parade committee reviewed them, tried to get the best and most unique cars available. And hopefully that's what you're going to see here today.
I don't see any imported cars here.
Well, you know, they weren't excluded. The best thing about what we're celebrating is that America is the place to build cars. There are 12 major automotive manufacturers here in America. The big three, 7 Japanese companies, BMW and Mercedes-Benz, all build cars here in America. It's the only country in the world that has so many auto manufacturers.
This is a 1926 Model T, and I bought it 3 years ago in Tempe, Arizona. I was born in the Model A age, and I wasn't too familiar with the Model T, and I kind of wanted something that I didn't know anything about. The engine is a 4-cylinder engine. We started this in 1908, if I'm not mistaken, and you just kept improving a little bit, but they're all interchangeable from 1908 to 26. The correct speed is 25 miles an hour, but you can go maybe 30. You shouldn't go 35.
He was looking for a coupe, and I seen this, and I said, oh, there's my Elvis car, because he's my man.
What'd you pay for it?
And then $16,000.
Was it pink? Was it all?
Yes, it was pink. We have put new wheels on it and put a whole new front end under it, and I mean, we put a lot more money into it. But the color was exactly what I wanted, but it was dirty. But I knew it would shine up nice.
Now, they say to keep women and wives happy, you give them diamonds. This didn't happen.
No. Just give her the Cadillac. That's what you wanted. But I changed my mind on this Cadillac. I wanted my coupe. I changed my mind twice. And all the way home, down 75, all she did is holler at me, you won't buy me a Cadillac. So I turned back around after I got my deposit. Then he said, well, I don't know if I should sell it to you or not. Now he says, I don't need to sell it. I said, I got to have that Cadillac back because I ain't going to live when I get home. So he said, okay. So I give him a bigger deposit, and we got the car.
Is this for show or is this for driving?
We drive it 7 days a week. We drive it to all shows. Sometimes if it's nice, we just jump in it just to be riding it, cruising.
None of us live forever. The question I always want to ask somebody who owns a beautiful car like this, what happens when you're gone? Did you think about things like that?
The grandbaby's getting
I got a granddaughter that's going to get this car, if this is the one we end up with at that time.
Hey, long live Elvis, eh?
Right.
Well, my son is a florist in the city of Grosse Pointe Woods, and one day I was making a delivery and we found this vehicle sitting in a garage with a for sale sign. So I went up to the old fellow and asked him if he wanted to sell the vehicle, and he said, son, I do want to sell it. That's why the sign is on it. So believe it or not, I paid $1,500 for this car 8 years ago and had 33,000 original miles on it. It was a few rusts, had a lot of body work to be done. But I said to the man, I said, does the car run? And he said, of course it runs. So we went in and put the key in the ground a couple of times and kicked right off, and it was on Mother's Day. So I went back to the flower shop. I told my son that I had just bought an antique car. He said, what do you mean you bought an antique? So I told him about it, and he said, well, that's great. So that's how we got it.
Other than the price, what do you love about this car?
I loved it because it's my era. I'm 65 years old. And I remember these cars, and I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it. It goes all the way across the vehicle. That's where we found the original advertisement certificate. It was inside the glove box.
And they're easy to steal. He just jumped this wire. In high school, he goes, and you're out of there. Yeah. That's great. Hey, thanks for showing us. Hey, no problem. Yeah, it's a beauty.
Jay? Brad Diner, down from Toronto, Canada.
Hey, how you
Number
doing?
one show, Motoring.
Hey, Toronto, good town, I like Toronto,
Tell me about the car, what it means to you.
Which car,
How many you got?
Oh, here's on my wife now. About 30-something cars. Bunch of cars.
When did it start for you? I mean, we were saying
When did
that
it start?
the kids today are getting the passion. Is it still there? What was it like for you when you...
Oh, when I was a kid, anything that rolled or moved, I liked. Anything that rolled and made explosive noises, I liked.
And this one is your favorite?
Well, that's one of my favorites. When I was a kid, this was the hot setup. This is the car that sort of led to the Mustang. It had the V8 and the 4-speed, and they sold a few of these, and then that kind of gave them the impetus to go on and build the Mustang. Same wheelbase, right? Yeah, same wheelbase, same chassis as well. Yeah.
Did you work on them yourself? Were you mechanically inclined?
Oh yeah, I worked on them. My point was, if I could work on them for a couple hours and get them up to the point where they had broken originally when I started, then I'm fine.
The favorite car that you have, other than this one?
Oh, I got some Duesenbergs. I like those. My favorite, those Canadian-built Parisians.
You being here, does it, your love of the automobile is 100 years. I mean, I don't know about you, we all get shivers here, but what's it mean to you to be here?
No, I don't get any shivers. It's pretty warm. I think you want to come back maybe around mid-December. Then you'll really feel some shivers. Oh, yeah. No, it's exciting to me. This is like the Super Bowl for car enthusiasts. This is the town to come to. And it's great fun.
Are there cars that you wish you'd hung on to that you didn't hang on to?
Actually, I'm going back and buying them all now.
Perhaps only the Bay Street boys are immune to price. A couple of years ago, Mazda introduced the Protege. The single biggest knock against that vehicle was just that, price. For 1996, they're trying to combat that very criticism by introducing this new model. This is the entry-level SE.
Talk compact cars, and the first thoughts that come to mind are probably not space and roominess. However, with Mazda's Protege, they certainly are, and for good reason. The new design utilises something Mazda term OptiSpace. This design credo takes the highly touted cab-forward design one step further, encompassing all aspects of the car's design.
Judging the success of the OptiSpace concept is really very simple. There's more front head and leg room than a Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and the interior volume, well, it outdoes Honda's Accord. And back here I can tell you, there's acres of headroom, loads of legroom.
By decontenting the LX model, Mazda now offer a model more in line with that of a traditional compact car, one that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Surprisingly, removing some of the content and adding it to the option list or deleting it altogether has enhanced rather than detracted from an otherwise very competent car.
When it came to decontenting the interior, Mazda took the vanity mirror away, took the clock out of the dash, it now resides in the radio, and they put the cigar lighter onto the option list. Aside from that, everything else is intact. The seats are wonderfully supportive and very comfortable on a long trip, and you still get adjustable upper seatbelt anchors, and that's not bad given the price.
The single biggest change is found under the hood. Rather than using the 1.8 litre engine, the SE utilises a 1.5 litre 4 that was specifically designed for the 323, a model that has sadly gone the way of the dodo bird. While the numbers, 92 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 96 pounds-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM, look more than a little on the tame side, this engine delivers. A lot of the credit going to the specifically tuned intake runners. These ensure high volumetric efficiency, which in turn puts the torque in the usable range, and that is low down. Matched with this willing workhorse is a 4-speed electronically controlled automatic transmission that features well-chosen ratios. First gear is low enough to give reasonable pulling power, while top gear allows comfortable highway cruising. It also improves the fuel mileage. An average of 35 miles per gallon is not out of the question with this new version.
The Protege SE feels like a quick little car primarily because of the low-end torque. However, if you put a clock on it, it requires about 12 seconds to run through the 100k mark. Now, by today's standards, that's on the slow side. The reason? The automatic transmission. It deprives you of about 3 of those precious seconds. The moral of the story? Stick with a stick shift if you want the extra hop.
The suspension features McPherson struts and coil springs at all 4 corners with a sway bar in front. The feel is predictable and compliant. Both ride and handling have to be considered close to, if not best in class. Now, with the original LX's price tag, this was to be expected, but with the SE coming in at just over $13,800, this is something special. In cutting content, they left the suspension intact, and for that, I say thank you very much. Again, the brake system functioned flawlessly with stops averaging 114 feet from 80k. The only beef is that ABS is not available at any cost unless you jump up to the LX. Now this is a real shame.
Well, that's it for yet another test drive. You know, this SE model should work wonders for Protege sales. It offers most of what the LX does, minus some of the knickknacks, but it comes at a very palatable price. Even if you add all of the options, airbag, automatic and air conditioning, you only add about $1,000 a pop. If you're in the market for a compact car at an affordable price, this vehicle should be at or near the top of your list.
It's time to say goodbye to the last of our long-term testers. Now to the tail of the tape and the final numbers. The Caravan has been around for 6 months now, and an enjoyable time it's been. The lesson learned is one of space, both the enormity of it and the manner in which it's packaged. Remove the seats and everything down to the kitchen sink fits. Refit the seats and you can ferry 7 around in style and comfort. The bonus in all of this, of course, is the 4th door on the left side. The other aspect that's grown on me is the all-white paint job. The monochromatic scheme turns a rather boxy look into quite an eye-catcher.
You're looking at a 1908 Cadillac. Now, Cadillac first came out in 1903. What made this year special was that it was the last year that it came with the single cylinder. The engine is in the back. Here's the ignition key. Up here is just the water tank. Now, you'd think if Bill Gardiner was around as a mechanic way back then, that a car like this would be a snap to work on. Right, Bill?
Well, Brad, I'll tell you, you put one over on me with a single-cylinder Cadillac. I remember my dad talking about Cadillacs in the 20s and 30s, and I remember all this talk of 12 and 16-cylinder engines, so it's news to me that they ever had a single-cylinder engine. In any case, hey, hold on a second. There's something wrong with this picture here. Oh, okay. Well, we've got a real treat this week, a perfectly restored 1931 Ford Model A, and I've got Richard Chaikoff here. Richard, I understand this car's got a very interesting serial number.
Yes, it's body serial number 1. It was made in Tilbury, Ontario. It was the first Model A of this design, which is a Victoria, that was made here in Canada. It was made by Canada Top and Body. So we were kind of fortunate in acquiring the car. We got it in 1968 down on Parliament Street in a warehouse, and it wasn't in the condition that you see today. But we spent about 20 years restoring it, since my partner and I had other vehicles that we drove around in. And it's taken us quite a while, but it's here, and we finished it in 1988, and it's as you see it now. Here we go. All right, we'll get the hood up here, and we'll show you this engine. It's 200.5 cubic inches, and in today's lingo, that's 3.3 liters. It develops 40 horsepower at 2,200 RPMs and 128 foot-pounds of torque at 1,000 RPMs, and the compression ratio is 4.22 to 1. These spark plugs are kind of easy to change compared to today's cars, according to Bill anyway, but you'll notice that these copper leads here eliminate any need for any insulated ignition leads except for the one coming from the coiler. This, of course, is your distributor, and down here we have the starter with a direct drive push button for your foot, and over here we have the generator, which preceded the alternator of today. This is the cutout, which there is no voltage regulator on this generator, so this just cut it off, so when you turn the key off it didn't try and run. Your water pump is over here, and it has an adjustment here so that you can stop it from leaking, a packing nut actually it's called. Okay, Bill, let's go and have a look at the other side and I'll show you the fuel system over there.
Alrighty, the hood up, geez, I can handle this. Richard, this updraft carburetor and manifold remind me a lot of the one we had on our 41 Massey Harris farm tractor.
Yeah, those look much the same. This is kind of an interesting system, Bill, because it runs by gravity. It's filled right here, right under your hand, and from there it flows right down through the fuel filter into the updraft carburetor. So Henry saved himself a few dollars by not supplying a fuel pump here. It ran strictly by gravity. Another thing that's interesting is that this is an accessory, an aftermarket accessory, the air filter. When the car came from the factory, it didn't even have an air filter on it.
Well, that's kind of hard to believe. I mean, when you think in terms of in this car's heyday, all the roads were unpaved. You had dirt and gravel roads. There must be a tremendous amount of dust, and you must be doing piston ring jobs on an engine like this every 1,000 miles or so at that rate.
Well, I wasn't around then, but they tell me they were doing them every 10 or 20,000 miles.
Wow, I'm surprised they lasted that long. How often did they change the oil?
Every 500 miles they were supposed to change it.
And there was no oil filter on this engine?
No oil filter supplied or available.
How much oil does it hold?
4 liters today, 4.5.
That's it?
At that time it was probably 4 quarts. Well, Bill, this isn't just a hood ornament, you know. This is to tell you the temperature of your red and to let you know when you're overheating. When the red comes up to the top of the gauge, then you know it's too late. Got to pull over.
Well, this is 2 accessories now in this car. I thought you classic car guys were sticklers for originality, an air filter and now a coolant temp gauge.
Well, we put them on because we have to drive in today's conditions, so we want everything to be up to date.
You know, we're always talking about, reminiscing about the good old days of car repair and how neat it would be to have cars that'd be simple to work on again. And but you know, when I actually think about it, in actual fact, guys like me would be in real big trouble, because if cars today were as simple as this one, is everybody'd be doing their own repairs and maintenance at home, and guys like me would be in big trouble because something like this is so simple. In any case, till next week, I'm Bill Gardiner for Motoring 96. Okay, Richard, let's hear that horn.
This is what you call an 1890 concept car. Okay, this is what they thought an automobile was supposed to look like in 1890. It was never built though, it was only sketched up. Here's the original sketch from 1890. This is all we had to go on. That's what they thought an automobile was supposed to look like. Now, we found this sketch in a Coronet magazine in 1960, and it was entitled Dumb Ideas from the 1800s. And we ripped this page out and we said, in effect, this one don't look so dumb, we're going to build it. And we talked about it, and we talked about it, and we talked about it for 29 years. In 1990, we went to work. Once we went to work, it only took 12 weeks to build it. 11 weeks were spent on the 2 wheels. Everything else that you see here was created in 7 days. The engine is a John Deere tractor engine. It's hydraulic drive, and I need you people to stand back just a little bit, and we'll give you a little demonstration. It's hydraulic. When we move the stick back, it moves backwards. We move the stick forward, it moves forward. When we turn it to the right, it steers to the right. Turn it to the left, it turns to the left. It's like flying an airplane. And they call it a swing bike. In case you want to do some swinging, you can do some swinging. It weighs 3/4 of a ton. It will go 18 miles per hour. And we've driven it 1,500 miles in the 5 years that we've had it. Our favorite thing to do is to take it to convalescent homes and take the old folks for rides around the parking lot.
Look who's here with Johnny Steele. It's that lovely girl Lucille. There's a dealer now you see, and he is handing him the key. What a big new thrill they feel as they slip behind the wheel. Oh, they'll sing a song as they roll along, for they got their Oldsmobile.
The performance is terrific.
Oh, it's thrilling.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns keeping your car of the year viable for many years to come. There's an awful trend out there amongst car dealers to mail you letters and brochures suggesting that that car that you just bought from them requires servicing, in many cases at double the interval that the car manufacturer requires. It's the car manufacturer himself that is liable for any warranty claims on that car if it goes wrong, so he's not going to let it fall apart for want of service. Follow his service intervals. The main thing to determine is whether your usage falls under normal service or severe service. It's all laid out in that owner's manual. Consult it and follow those intervals as close as you can. And keep records of all your service and maintenance wherever they were done. They're very valuable if you ever have to make a warranty claim, and they're also valuable further down the road if you want to sell that car. It's important information for any used car buyer to look at. Has that vehicle been maintained? That's your Midas tip of the week.
We hate flag wavers, but we love to wave a flag. The real inventor of the automobile, that's next on Kenzies Corner.
Kenzies Corner with Jim Kenzie.
So the Americans are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the automobile in North America, are they? Just because Charles and Frank Duryea drove their little buggies around the streets of Springfield in 1896? Well, you know what the Americans are like. America consists of anything you can see from the top of a stepladder in a cornfield in Iowa someplace. Well, in fact, the first automobile in North America was built by Henry Seth Taylor in Stansted, Quebec. You never heard of Taylor? Well, he never heard of you either. He was a watchmaker by profession and interested in things mechanical, and like most people of an inventive bent in the late 19th century, Taylor was looking at the automobile as a personal challenge. He only built one steam-powered vehicle that he putted around the streets of Stansted for about 20 years, and when he was finished with it, he put it away, never commercialized his invention. The pieces were discovered about 40 years ago, and in a true Canadian story, it took an American to realize their importance. He had the vehicle restored as a demonstration of how copper can be used in an automobile. There was a happy ending, however. The vehicle was purchased by the National Museum in Ottawa, and that's where it resides to this day. So you Americans celebrating the 100th anniversary? Sorry, you're about 30 years too late. I'm Jim Kenzie.
The 100th birthday of the North American automobile industry is continuing here in Detroit. And you know, this kind of event is all about memories. Many of the people here have either driven these cars or sat in the back seat of one as a family. But you know, I think it's even more than memories. I think what these men and women have accomplished is to keep history alive. And although we might not be around when they celebrate the 200th anniversary, our grandchildren will be. And just think of the wonderful history lesson they'll receive. That's it for now. We'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
TSN's Motoring 96 has been brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will, and Midas, the way it should be.